Welcome to one of the most exciting episodes of Real Estate the Right Way with your host, Michael.Wright, residential realtor on Long Island, New York, delivering the best educational content when it comes to residential real estate. If you appreciate this content, please give me a like, subscribe, ask me a question in the comments, and hit that bell so you're always notified of new videos. Today, we're talking about closing time. The attorney gave you a call, said, hey, we're ready to close. The bank's on board, the seller's on board, the seller's attorney, the bank attorney. I'm ready as your attorney. I'm not an attorney, but your attorney will say that. When are you ready, buyer? And it's all starting to come together. So before we go over what's involved in the final walkthrough, how to make sure your water, power, and gas don't get shut off, and also what to bring to the closing, let's take a brief minute and just appreciate where we were just a few months ago. You've put in a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and probably some stress along the way that you might still be experiencing. When are the movers going to show up? When can I get the keys? How is everything going to work? You're probably formulating furniture purchases, paint colors. There's still a lot that you have roaming around in your head, not to mention what's going on in your daily life. Because, yeah, buying a house is important. It kind of takes over. But there's other things that have to get done. There's cooking, there's cleaning, there's laundry, there's your job, there's maybe kids are a factor. There's a ton of other things that are going on other than outside of just buying a house. So let's take a brief moment, take a deep breath, and appreciate where you are today and where you were just a few months ago before you found this incredible house, and the journey that it took to get here. So what was involved? You got pre-approved. You defined your budget. You took a look at how the location of the home and also the home criteria work together so that all three can come together to find you the home that you're days away from owning. You made an offer. That offer was accepted. You did a home inspection. You negotiated those repair requests with the seller if there was anything significant, and if not, you went right to contract as an excited home buyer should. The seller was on board, they signed the contract, you gave your down payment on contract, you're in full contract. You completed your mortgage application, the bank did their appraisal, your attorney ordered title and probably a survey of the property. You overcame any hurdles when it came to getting your mortgage commitment letter, you cleared those conditions. The survey may have uncovered a boundary disagreement where the fence line wasn't actually on the property line. You overcome a couple title concerns, you get clear title, the appraisal came back, that was resolved if there was any issue with that, and now you have your clear to close. So much time, so much energy, so much effort for this day. You should be proud of yourself. It took a lot to get here, and you're about to get rewarded for all your efforts. Let's jump in. So once your closing is scheduled, and when I say closing scheduled, it's not we think it's going to be on this day. You want a confirmed date, time, and location. If you don't have those three things, it can feel like the closing is scheduled and you want it to be scheduled so bad, but until you have the date, time, and location, it's actually not confirmed. Once it is confirmed, once you have those three pieces of information, it's time to reach out to your real estate agent and schedule the final walkthrough. So let's talk about what's involved. The final walkthrough is your last opportunity to evaluate the home before you go to the closing, sign all the papers, and it becomes yours. So there's a couple key things that need to happen during the walkthrough. Most importantly, you want to make sure that the house is in the same condition as when you went to contract. In addition to making sure that any repairs that you may have negotiated with the seller are complete. So, what does that involve? So when you're going to the house for the final walkthrough, you want to have a list of any repairs that the seller was supposed to perform, so that way you can verify that they were done. The seller should also provide receipts or proof that these repairs were done, and they'll bring those to the closing table. But it's always good to take a look at it with your own eyes to make sure they're complete. The other thing you want to do is make sure that all the appliances that are included in the contract are in good working order. So you're going to test the stove, you might run the microwave, make sure that wine fridge is cold, make sure the heat works, the air conditioning, turn on all the lights. Make sure, like I said, the house is in the same condition or better as when you went to contract. And if any issues come up, if there's a hole in the wall that maybe one of the movers dinged a piece of furniture in, or there's or maybe the dryer doesn't work, or a lot of instances actually the water dispenser, if the house has been vacant for a long time, sometimes that filter expires and the water dispenser on the refrigerator won't work, and that filter just has to be replaced. Which actually is a quick tangent to, I prefer to do walkthroughs actually the day before or like the evening before closing, so that way if there are any kind of minor items like a burner on a stove won't ignite, or the water dispenser on the refrigerator doesn't work, it gives the seller an opportunity to resolve those issues the right way, so you go into a fully functioning house, as opposed to trying to negotiate some sort of modest credit towards one of these items. It's always good to just open the door and have everything work, as opposed to negotiating credit that probably won't be enough to fix the issue, but also more than the seller certainly wants to pay. And we want to go into the closing with as much good faith as possible. So it's always good to identify any issues before the closing day. So you've completed the final walkthrough. The house is in the same or better condition as it was for when you went to contract. You notice any repairs that were negotiated were completed. Now it's time to call the utility companies, which you could do before the final walkthrough if you'd like, or after. Doesn't make a difference. What you want to do is reach out to the electric company, the gas company if you have natural gas, and the water company to let them know that you're taking possession of this account and this house, so that way they can start the service for you in your name the day of the closing. If you don't do that, in all likelihood, your water, power, or gas could get shut off the very next day. So calling the utilities is imperative. It's not something that you want to wait to do after you close. When you're at the closing, there's going to be a lot of things going on. You're going to be so excited after the fact when you get the keys and you go to the house, you're going to forget. Do it beforehand. Do it when you have a little bit of time. If you're watching this video, stop it, pause it, do it right now. Call the utility companies and let them know when you're taking possession of the home, so that way your utilities continue on while you're living there. The last piece of the puzzle, what to bring to the closing. Well, your attorney should review this with you, but because it's on my list, I'm going to review it with you now. You want to make sure you bring your government-issued IDs. Could be a driver's license, state ID, whatever the case, passport. Make sure you bring your ID with you, because, well, you're going to be signing a lot of paperwork, and there's going to be a couple people at the closing that want to make sure that you are actually who you say you are. You also want to make sure to bring a personal checkbook. There's a lot of math involved in closing on a home. There's the down payment, there's the New York State transfer tax, there's the property taxes, there could be village taxes involved, there's obviously homeowners insurance, there's different fees that go around, and sometimes a number gets transposed, a calculation is done incorrectly, and the bank checks, which I'll get to in a second, aren't in the exact correct amount. So it's good to have on hand a personal checkbook just in case there's a couple $100 difference between what the money you're supposed to bring is different from what is actually required to close. The other thing why it's good to have a personal checkbook is the house that you're buying has oil, and there's oil in the tank. But the oil in the tank actually isn't included in what you're paying for the house. The purchase price for the house is the house, not the oil. So there's going to be an adjustment at closing for the oil that's contained in the tank. And a lot of times you satisfy that with a personal check. So let's get to bank checks. This is one of the last big stressors when it comes to buyers getting ready for the closing, or buyers buying a house in general. It always comes down to the last minute, it feels like. The attorney says they're waiting on numbers from the bank, which is entirely accurate. The bank, they have their internal processes, procedures, due diligence, checks and balances. Whatever they're doing to calculate these final numbers, they have to do, and they usually wait until the last minute. And then they give those numbers to the attorney, and then the attorney has to do their math to make sure that the number that they're telling you for the bank checks, who they're written out to, who's getting paid by whom, whether the seller's paying for it, whether the buyer's paying for it. There's a lot of transactional fees that are included in in the closing, and they're not always divvied up the same way. So it does take a little while for the bank to get the attorney the numbers, and then the attorney to talk to the other attorney and figure out who's bringing checks for what to make sure that all parties get paid. Again, take a deep breath. If you're going to the closing today and you don't have those final numbers yet, don't worry. You're the star of the show. The closing cannot happen without you. If they're late getting you the numbers for the check, well, you know what? You can only go to the bank once you have those numbers. And the closing, like I said, can't take place without you. So take a deep breath, realize it's out of your control, let the stress go, and when you get the numbers, go to the bank, get the checks, go to the closing with a smile, because you're buying a house. This is exciting. You're buying a house today. Absolutely incredible. Did you think this was possible 4, 5, 6 months ago? I can't believe the day is finally here. So, what to expect when you get to the closing? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk in, you're going to sit down with your attorney, and your attorney is going to have a stack of papers in front of them. And the other attorney on the other side is also going to have a stack of papers in front of them. And the attorney is going to go over to you and say, this page is this, this page is this, this page is this, this page is this. And each one of those pages you're going to have to sign. And then if you're buying it with a partner, spouse, etc., that person's going to have to sign too. So, a lot of signatures. Stretch those fingers before you get there. So as you go through this process of signing paper after paper after paper, disclosure after disclosure after disclosure, each paper you sign gets you closer and closer and closer to having those keys in your hand. Keep the eye on the prize, keep a positive attitude. Sometimes a couple things come up during the closing that seem like they're going to be big wrenches. More often than not, it gets worked out. Not a big deal. Take one more deep breath. The keys will be in your hands very shortly. Once you've signed the last paper, the bank waits for funding. Once funding is cleared, the seller obtains the funds, you get the keys, congratulations, fireworks go off, bells ring, you get the keys, the house is yours. Congratulations. This was a long, sometimes stressful process, but you did it, you put in the time, you put in the energy, you put in the effort, and the keys are yours. Enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been another episode of Real Estate the Right Way with your host, Michael.Wright, residential realtor on Long Island, New York. If you appreciate the value in this content, give me a like, subscribe to the channel, ask me a question in the comments as it relates to your specific scenario, and hit that bell so you're always notified of new videos. And as always, tell me what home means to you, and I'll help you get there. Thanks so much.